listeners, the more we learn about healing, the clearer it becomes that the body isn't just a vessel, it is a storyteller. Every knot in your stomach, every wave of anxiety, every intuitive gut feeling, it is the body's way of speaking the mind's unspoken truths. Sounds really fascinating, right, listeners? Well, on this episode of the Mindful Journey today, listeners, with your host Sana, we are going deeper beneath the surface of thoughts and into the terrain of the gut brain connection. Not just the science of digestion, but the spirituality of presence. Because maybe balance isn't something we find, it is something we feel when the body and mind finally starts listening to each other. My guest today, Lola MacLean, knows this conversation intimately, listeners. As a functional gut health consultant and family nurse practitioner, she has helped countless women move from frustration and fear to understanding and empowerment, especially when it comes to gut health that just won't seem to behave. So, today we are going to ask this question: can healing your gut actually bring you home to yourself? Let's dive deep into the conversation and let's try to find out the answers. So, Lola, welcome to the show, and it is really an honor to have you here with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I am very much looking forward to this conversation.
Totally, totally. Um, Lola, I think I I don't know about the listeners, but I think in one way, doing so many conversations, specifically around gut, has really taught me that how beautifully our body is actually created.
Mm.
It's made that every system has its own way of working, and then collectively, if we think about, every system is communicating with each other,
Mhm.
and that is kind of magnified in how we see the nature, the planet, and everything working around us. So, with that, let's try to understand the science, how it meets the subtle here. Like when we talk about the gut-brain axis, Lola, we often hear it described as a second brain. But
Mhm.
if you can explain like what's actually happening there.
Yeah, so I loved what you were just describing, right? That
Mhm.
concept of how we have all of these kind of separate systems, but
Mhm.
then these systems, when they are working together, right, that total is greater than the sum of its parts. Um, and I do believe that when we're thinking about the way in which our body shows that, the
Mhm.
gut-brain connection definitely is the one that we can see the most easy, like, that's the easiest for us to recognize as humans. So when we are talking about the gut-brain connection, like you said, one of the common things people will say is the gut is your second brain, and when we're talking about that, what we're really talking about is something called our enteric nervous system. And the enteric nervous system is basically the nervous system that surrounds your intestines and your gut and is communicating with
Mhm.
your brain through primarily the vagus nerve. So when people are saying second brain, that's really what they're meaning.
Okay. 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 That is interesting. That is interesting. And also like Laura, um how is the gut really influencing that, how we think, we feel, and even show up in the world?
Mhm. How is the gut influencing that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like how it is really influencing our decisions or the way we react to, let's say, any kind of surprises or
Mhm.
events that may feel like a threat for our bodies or ourselves.
Mhm. So there's a couple of ways, and I think the most basic of ways is if we think about our digestive system as the way through which the rest of our body gets
Mhm.
the nutrients it needs, right? The
Mhm.
actual pieces that it needs to function are so when we are having digestive issues, not absorbing things properly, like let's say we have low stomach acid or we've got an H. pylori infection or there's some other kind of imbalance within our gut microbiome, we don't absorb nutrients. So we're not getting the appropriate amounts of magnesium or things like iron or zinc or different B vitamins. And a lot of those components are necessary for adequate mental health, right? We need those things for cellular energy, for detoxing, for all sorts of different processes within our body. So, like that basic part. But on the flip side, like you were mentioning, like if we're feeling stressed out or anxious or something's going on, we are in what we call a sympathetic state. So that fight flight state. And with that fight flight state, our body is not made, it's not designed to be digesting at that point in time, right? So when we're stressed and anxious, our body stops kind of doing that rhythmic movement of food through the digestive system. It stops digesting what we've put into it. And then again, we're not absorbing what we need to. So you kind of get this forward feeding cycle of I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm anxious, my digestion shuts down. My digestion shuts down. It's not providing me the things I need to get out of this spiral of stress and anxiety and actually overcome what I need to overcome.
You're right. You're right. And also, in like we often talk about stress eating or uh the comfort food. Sometimes, we would like personally, if I can tell for myself, I feel like having chocolates after dinner every day. Um, or maybe, some people will say I love to have ice cream when I'm stressed or I feel like crying. Especially in women.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so, I mean, it's like a cycle that if we are stressed out, our gut is giving the signal sent to carbohydrate, and then if the gut is not going well, then our body starts to exhibit those symptoms. Maybe feel specific symptoms, maybe on our skin and our mood sometimes as well.
Mhm.
So, um, I mean, I would love to know your thoughts on this, Laura. Like how exactly all this is happening, and as a woman, like how we can actually take control of this.
Yeah, and I think definitely one of the first questions, and it's a hard question to sit with, but one of the very first questions is what's what's behind this craving, right? So a lot of times it is things like, "Oh, I'm hungry, so I'm going to eat this and I like this is a food that is comforting to me." Why is that food comforting to you?
Mm.
There's a lot of stories that get tied up in food, right? Like for me, when I am feeling particularly sad or things have had like I've had a rough day or that,
Mhm.
like I will generally gravitate toward this soup that my mom used to make for us when we were growing up, right? And so that's what I want is that particular comfort food for me. But also especially if we're tying it back to the gut, one of the interesting things gets to be if we have a dysbiosis or a shift in the bacterial balance or the microorganisms within us, sometimes those actually can drive cravings for us, right? So I've seen it in quite a few women where we have these really strong cravings for sugary treats, or like I go into the cupboard and I eat a cookie and then the whole box is gone, right? And when we actually look deeper, we find, oh, there's a Candida imbalance or a yeast overgrowth. And that yeast is communicating with your body and telling your body what to feed it so it continues to survive, right? Because it enjoys sugar. So now you're eating sugary treats to feed this yeast, and then you have a overgrowth of it. And so when we kind of like get to the root of that and take a look at it and address that, those cravings go away, right? It's always interesting when people are like, "Oh, wow, I wasn't really wanting the sugar. It was this other thing that was going on." So that's always an interesting piece too.
Mm, I agree. I agree. And let's talk about the emotional terrain here. Because many of the people you work with, they are high achieving women, and now, um, I don't know, like people they make stereotypes, but um, for women, I think there's still long way to make it even. Especially when we talk about highly stressful jobs, or especially when we talk about the professional side there.
Mhm.
The and sometimes it's also disheartening to know that even homemakers, they're not given enough credit for the labor that they're putting in. So uh, you know people are they're used to pushing through discomfort. It is something that society will first say that it's like a badge of honor for you. As
Absolutely.
long as you are managing everything, you're feeling stressed, but you're doing it everything quietly, pleasing, and saying yes to everyone, everything, you are like the ideal one. How does that mindset show up in their gut health, Lola? And what happens when they finally start slowing down?
Mhm. I think first and foremost, like that is a very true and unfortunate statement, right? Is that women do kind of suffer silently through a lot of things, right? We normalize so many things like bloating, or we normalize, different digestive issues, and we just move on. We move on with it. Um, and with that, a good number of women that I see, and I'll use an example from one of my recent clients. So we stopped working together in July, but from January to July, we were working together. And um, one of her big issues, so she was working as a librarian and like in the government, kind of big job, and had a lot of responsibilities. One of her big things was she also had to commute to work. And so she would spend an hour commuting to work on the train, and she would very regularly have instances where she had this urgency to go to the bathroom. And so there was a lot of episodes of like, is it safe for me to commute to work? Is it safe for me to travel? And that's when she finally reached out for help, because her digestion was now impacting her work. And I think
Mhm.
that's what happens for a lot of women is you brush it off, you put it to the side, it's not a big deal until all of a sudden now it's really significantly impacting your work, your home life, your children, like something big gives out, and then you're like, "Oh, no, I need to take a look at this." But when we started working together, she was having difficulty commuting, she was going to the bathroom 7 or 8 times a day, always bloated,
Mhm.
very anxious, having very regular panic attacks. And so as we started to address what was going on with her gut, which one of the big pieces was this concept of leaky gut, so enhanced intestinal permeability. So everything that she was eating, her body was just reacting to, and we started focusing on that and really dialed in her nutrition and started working on some very basic mindfulness practices like going out for a 5-minute walk, like just the little simple things that she knew that she could do, right? Going for a 5-minute walk or singing a song in the shower, something that just brought her a little bit of joy and helped her to connect back to her body, because there got to be this state of disconnect. And because she was so disconnected, she wasn't feeling so much of what was going on within her gut and within her body. And it was kind of showing up as that anxiety piece. But as we connected the two together again, not only did the digestive piece get a lot better, so no bloating, going to the bathroom once a day, but she was able to really take a look at her work and realize that that's not what she wanted to do. And she actually ended up shifting jobs through our work together because she was like, this isn't fulfilling for me anymore. And now she's doing something different. But just being able to take that time to sit down and listen to yourself, right? That is,
Absolutely.
I think that's the biggest thing is having that just potential to be present with yourself and listen to what your body's trying to tell you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, it sounds so simple, the sentence, but
Mhm.
it can be really, really hard, because um, I don't know whether it's kind of a systemic thing or a societal expectation. But unfortunately, the majority is still the same. It's assumed that we will go through everything and won't say anything.
Mhm.
I think, and it's not just gender specific, but for anyone um, who is feeling like this empty vessel, because you cannot pour from an empty vessel.
Mhm.
Or we need that time to listen to ourselves, to practice compassion and forgiveness towards ourselves.
Yeah.
Because if we are not doing that, then how are how can we expect help?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that turns into that you're right, I think
Mm,
whether it's society or just kinda like a cultural thing, like, I a lot of what I see is this, like, escapism, right?
mm,
It's so uncomfortable to sit with ourselves, even just for a few minutes, that we'll do anything to escape it, right? Whether that's like, "Oh, let me go watch some TV real quick," or "Let me just tune out," or anything to not sit with this discomfort.
mm. Actually, actually. And Lola, I also want to bring in the kind of, something which I have observed in wellness culture, that it tells us to trust the gut,
Mm,
but at the same time, it bombards us with products and protocols that make us like, second guess our intuition.
mhm.
Do you think the industry has overcomplicated what's like meant to be very simple?
I do believe that. I am a big proponent of basics first, right? So, like, I know they're not sexy, but look at how are you really sleeping? How are you moving your body? How are your relationships with family, with friends? Like, do you have joy? Do you have a purpose or passion in your life? Um, and if the answer to all of that kind of stuff is yes, and you're still having digestive issues or any kind of health issues, then we get into that more, esoteric kind of like functional space or even conventional medicine. But with what I see in the wellness industry, you're right. Like there is a lot of just like pushing supplements. That's a big one for people because it's a promise. It's a promise that this particular thing is going to fix your problem and maybe temporarily it makes it better, but then what happens when it doesn't work anymore or what happens when, that mid-level marketing scheme runs out and you can't get that supplement anymore, right? And they take away your I'm trying to think of the best way to say it because when you purchase a supplement or when you put all your hope into that or put all your
Mhm.
hope into, this is gonna be the thing that fixes me, you're giving that thing control when really your body is designed to heal itself and to do what it's supposed to do when you give it the right environment.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that absolutely makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. Like, healing is something that cannot be forced upon.
Mhm.
It
No.
has to be its own time.
Yeah.
Uh, and also, there's this idea, Lola, that healing your gut heals your life.
Mhm.
Like, what about the people who have done everything right and they still struggle? Like, does that mean they're doing something wrong, or is there more to the story?
I think there's definitely more to that story, right? Because when we're saying like, "Oh, I'm doing all the right things," are the right things like I'm eating gluten-free, dairy-free, I'm going to the gym 5 days a week, like, are the right things the checklist, the wellness checklist? Or are the right things really slowing down and tuning into your body and what your body needs because it looks different for everyone and it looks different for all of us during different stages of our life too, right? So what
Mm.
worked when you were 20 doesn't necessarily work when you're 40, doesn't work when you're 60, and you need to have that compassion and that internal compass that says, "Oh, this isn't right for me anymore," versus forcing it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also think that, as if we circle back to the first part of our conversation, it's not just about the biological aspect, but I have personally experienced that during the most stressful times, and this is I'm talking about in my early 30s, in the most stressful times, I have experienced gut issues.
Mhm.
And trust me, when everything fortunately got normalized, my gut actually showed that, okay, everything is fine. So
Yeah.
it gives out those signals that, whether you are actually happy or not.
Mhm. It doesn't lie, and that's I mean, like, so true. Same happens for me, right? Like, there'll be periods where things are a little bit stressful, and then it'll be like, "Oh, why haven't I gone to the bathroom in 3 days, and why does my tummy hurt? Oh, wait, hold on. What has been happening the past 2 weeks? Let me actually take inventory of things, like, have I been sleeping well, and, did I have an argument, or, did something happen?" And it's like, "Oh, wow, no, your gut doesn't lie. It's telling you something's off."
True, that's true.
Mhm.
Lovely. Lovely. So, we know we have a time constraint because this is something that, it can take hours and hours of conversation to know so much. But if listeners, they would further explore into this and they would like to connect with you for more guidance and your resources as well, what would be the best medium?
Definitely Instagram is the easiest place to find me, and then just also any of the resources that I have, and, like, the educational content and things that way that I put out.
Super. Listeners, I'll have all these links in the show notes. So just connect with Lola and check out all of her resources. And I think maybe the next time your stomach flips or your energy dips or your intuition nudges, you'd pause and ask not what's wrong with me, but what's my body trying to say? Because, as Lola beautifully said, the gut doesn't lie. It just waits for us to listen. So thank you so much, Lola. This was really, really such an insightful conversation. And I think you have really, really reminded us that healing isn't about perfection, it's about partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it so much, and, yeah, I think that you also had some very beautiful points, right? There's a lot of gold in there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, listeners, for giving your precious time to listen to this episode on the mindful journey. Please connect with Lola, refer to the show notes along with this episode, and also subscribe to us, leave us a review because that keeps the wheels going on here at the Mindful Journey. Until then, this is host Sana signing off. Thank you.